Hey everybody, it's Always Bookin Comedy. I'm Mark Masters. It's Monday night. Um, Comedian is traveling to Chicago. Let me see if I can get a hold of them. Give them a quick call. See how this works. I just finished a 6-night run, so if they're not available, we can always talk about that instead. Just do a solo episode. Voicemail. I am guessing that's I don't know what's happening. So we'll just do a solo episode. We'll talk about my 6-night run, and I just finished with Ray Harrington, who was so funny. You can follow him on Instagram at Ray Harrington Comedy. Very, very interesting act. Super funny, mostly clean. Swears, but really no objectionable content, and it can obviously pull out the swear words. And very upbeat and positive. There's really no. If he makes fun of anybody, it's himself, which is a kind of an interesting thing for somebody who's so funny. A lot of times, things that are funny are objectionable or putting down somebody else. So I was very impressed with him. He does a lot of very creative and funny crowd work. Every show is unique. We had one of the shows where the chief of police for a major city was in the front row, and that came up in the middle of the show and was just one of the funniest organic comedy moments I've ever experienced. So let's run through the run. I'm gonna kind of cheat and go over to a little spreadsheet I have. And we'll start with a lot of things to talk about. So Tuesday, July 23rd, we were in Denver. My Denver show is ending. It was called Lodo Comedy Show, or at least it's on pause. The venue and I, we had a breakup, I guess is the easiest way to put it. It was tough. It was a Tuesday night show. It was hard to get people to come for a Tuesday night show. And nobody was making a lot of money, me or the venue. And they were great about it. They gave me a 3-4 month notice. We did do one Friday show before it ended, and that show was killer. It was really good. So I'm trying to get them to let me do weekend shows. Excuse me. And we'll see if they let us go back. The staff is on my side. Seems like the management is just not really interested. I'm not really sure what's going on. Kind of a political thing, seems like. So anyways, a good lesson for all show producers to always have backup venues. I don't have a backup venue in Denver. I think I'm just going to take a little break on running shows in Denver. We'll see. I was just doing some planning. It's now late July. Maybe in November, I could use a weekend show in the Denver area. So maybe I'll ask them. We had a blind comedian on this show. Also, we had a technical disaster in that the venue lights did not work. There was a single kind of blue dim light pointed at the stage, and the person who normally operates the lights, that's part of our agreement, is the venue runs the lights. They were not available. They got on FaceTime. We tried to fix it. We had about 15 minutes. We spent 15 minutes on FaceTime. It was unfixable. In the past, when that's happened, they've needed to like bring in some kind of tech that they paid. I don't really know what's going on at that venue. It could be, I don't know. It's one of those things where maybe it's about to go out of business. I don't really know what's happening. But it's been like that in the past, and it always seems to stick around. I think they have deep pockets somewhere. So I don't know. Anyway, so technical difficulty, that can happen at shows. It's funny how show running. So I've never read Chicken Soup for the Soul, but I feel like I could write an essay about how show running has made me a better person. You got to just roll with the punches. When there are really no lights on stage, the show must go on. I got 20 people in the audience. We did the show, and the blind comedian did not care. I can tell you that much. And that was interesting. We had to figure out. We did a trial, like getting to the microphone. I'd never helped a blind person really in any capacity, but certainly to a stage, to a microphone. We figured that all out. We got him an assist on the stage, and that was neat. The comedian I met I was traveling in San Jose, did an open mic, and he was there, and he said he was coming to Denver for a period of time, and I told him to reach out, and he emailed me, and we made that happen, and he'll come up later in this story as well. So let's see, did anything else interesting happen on Tuesday? We just had, it was really not a lot of people there. The show started with like 15 people in the audience, probably ended with 20. And the room can fit, we've had as many as 125 in there. So that was pretty paltry. But after the show, about half the audience stayed and hung out with the comics. So it was definitely a fun show. It was a bummer financially. The lights not working was a bummer. And so that's the end of Denver. So Tuesday night, we dealt with lodging. And then Wednesday, cheating and going back. Spreadsheet, I'm pretty tired. We went to Eagle, Colorado. That's like a 2-hour drive from Denver. First time venue. Our normal venue, we still have it, at least for the moment. We'll see how long that lasts. Was busy this specific night, and we have several months planned into the future. So we went to this new venue. I'd never been there. I had to bring chairs. That's always a pain in the butt. I had to get a roof box in my car, load the chairs into the roof box, put some chairs into the back of the Subaru, and we drove on up with a bunch of equipment. Got there very early, which is always nice. I like arriving early when I'm running a show in an unfamiliar environment. And we had to move some stuff around and rearrange, and the show was spectacular. It's like a 50-seater, and I think we had 48 in there. 50 seats, but with maybe 2 empty seats at a thing, and it's like just a concrete box, laughs rattling around, and that show was really hot, really fun. That was at a business called Second Street Collective in Eagle, Colorado. I really enjoyed it. All the comedians did great. We had a very strong lineup, and everybody had a good time. Some people even mentioned that they liked this venue more than the other venue where we usually are. And so that was Eagle. Eagle went super well. It was great to sell that many tickets. Nice to have a smaller room. We'll be back at our regular venue soon. But always good to have another venue. They loved us. The staff was so happy and appreciative of how we drew, how we got their name in the newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. So then Thursday, big event. Thursday, we're in Vail, Colorado. That's our normal place, the Gambit Bar at the Sebastian. What's interesting about that? Sorry, I lost you guys. Got to find the right tab here. What is interesting about the Vail show? The Vail show, we sold the most tickets we've ever sold. It was packed, and that was good and bad. The bad was it's late July. It was unseasonably warm. This bar doesn't have air conditioning. Why should it? It never gets hot in Vail, but you put 90 people in a room, and it's late July. It was steamy in there, and it made the audience a little sleepy. That was a very difficult if you look at the photos, it seems like that should have been a wonderful show. Audience was a little tight. Could have been, maybe they were uncomfortable from the heat, from being cramped in. But ticket sales were wonderful. Show was good enough. It was one of these shows where people didn't laugh very hard during the show. Like, you could feel it from stage. But after the show, everybody was like, that was an amazing show. That was incredible. So funny. You guys were so funny. So there's I don't know what's going on there, if it's a wealthier thing or what's going on. But that was the Vail Comedy Show, my flagship show. Big success. The interesting thing about that, we had so many people that we had to do a special seating configuration, and we opened the doors 15 minutes early. They gave us a 45-minute seating window, and I individually ushered each party into specific chairs, kind of like how they do it at Comedy Works in Denver. And in the end, we used all 45 minutes of that seating period to fill the room, and it was like a big puzzle. We eventually filled the whole thing, so that was kind of cool. I try and call this comedian one more time and see if they answer. And then otherwise, we'll just do a couple more nights of shows, and then we'll call this an episode. And I'm probably about to go to bed after 6 nights of running shows. Oh, here we go. Hey, what's up, man? You're on kind of. People can probably hear you. We started the taping 10 minutes ago. Are you available? Can you hear me?
Can you hear?
Yeah, sounds like you got bad service. Okay, I'm just going to do a solo episode. We'll reschedule you in the future. All right. I'll send him a text. Sorry about that, everybody. So we will move on now. We did Vail on Thursday. Look at my notes. It's all a blur. Friday, Aurora. Aurora Comedy Show has been a real roller coaster. We've had some fun shows. We started in a coffee shop. The coffee shop didn't want us anymore. Then we went to a hotel. The hotel ghosted us after that first show. This show was at a place called Milieu Fermentation. It's basically a brewery. All 3 of those venues are all within a block of each other in an area of Aurora called Ursula. Hold on, I'm going to just send a text. Okay. So we do this brewery. I get there early. It's hopping. We set it up. Beautiful, fun room, concrete. Laughs are going to bounce around. Didn't have to bring chairs. That was nice. Notice that my stage, I have an IntelliStage. I kind of noticed this the night before in Vail, that it is getting old and not really like it's 2 pieces. It's a platform, and then there's a accordion thing that goes underneath it, the legs, I guess you'd call it. And those they weren't tightening very well, kind of like cheap IKEA furniture. There's like an Allen wrench involved. And if you take apart IKEA furniture and put it back together too many times, those cam bolts and the thing, they just don't make a good connection. And just to flash forward, a couple days later, I had time and I took apart the stage and examined it and found that you could tighten some things on the legs. And I think I repaired it, which is good news. I thought I was basically end of lifing, getting old. The stages are, I don't know, $300 in that, between $200 and $500, I think. So it would be a bummer if I had to buy a new one. So I was pretty happy with my MacGyver work to repair that, but it was a bummer for 2 shows. Anyway, so the Aurora show, we set up all the chairs, really good ticket sales. Was very happy with that for a show that we've tried to do monthly, but we took like 3 months off while we were trying to find a new venue, and everything went great. That was the show with the Aurora. Aurora's like a town of 1 million people, and the chief of police was in the front row, and that was hilarious, very funny. What else interesting happened at the Aurora show? Not much. It was a banger of a show. The bummer of the show was towards the end, I talked to the venue and was like, hey, should I get up on stage and announce we'll be back next month? And we're like, we love this. We love everything about this. Let's do it twice a year. And I was like, ugh. So it's not like I lost the venue, but I kind of lost the venue, which is a real drag. So now we're up to 1.5 venues lost, if you count that as a half venue lost. And so that was Friday night. Super fun. Very good show. We had a guest spot from a Denver comic who was very sharp, very good. And we had a feature the whole run, Kibbles Hume, and who we should definitely get her on here because she runs some great shows in San Diego. I'll make a mental note of that. And then obviously Ray Harrington, very funny again. It was possibly the set of the week. And that was back-to-back bangers. Or I guess not back-to-back, but the Eagle show was incredible. And the Aurora show on Friday night was just a monster. So now let's go forward. It is now Saturday night. We go to Castle Rock. This was an interesting show. Castle Rock is used to be at a coffee shop, which was related to the coffee shop in Aurora. And they kicked us out. And then we moved to a theater, which On paper is great. It's an 80-seater, stadium seating, professional lights, professional sound, black box theater, very, very standard black box theater. It's in a strip mall, kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is a bummer. We went from downtown Castle Rock to about a mile away. So that's not great, but very easy parking, which is huge. Easy parking. And it was great because there was a brewery right down the street, and people would go over and get discounted beers there. Now, the brewery, I dropped off posters like a month before the show. I'd been emailing with the owner, never heard back from the owner. Was trying to verify that we'd get the discount again, never heard back. They usually have a food truck there, which is fun for the show. Get there, and the brewery is closed. Come to find out, once we started seating people, the owner is allegedly in jail for fraud, and long story there. But the brewery is no more. So now this theater is kind of in an island. So the comedy show is very fun, but there was no way to get alcohol before the show. There's no concessions, which is kind of weird. The setup was very cool. This particular theater has a movie screen, like huge LED digital billboard kind of thing, like you'd see at a minor league baseball stadium behind the stage. So pre-show, I run a slideshow with photographs of the comedians and some other advertisements and notes. It's pretty cool. It's very nice production value. One kind of bummer is there used to be a stage that obscured a portion of this screen plus some curtains. So I had this like funny Photoshop template where I would make slides that used up like 70% of the billboard. And between the last show and this one, they removed the curtains and the stage. So I don't really know how to describe this, but my artwork was only using 70%. There were like black stripes on the right, left, and bottom of every slide. So I got out my laptop, started working on it. This is also super random. I lost my eyeglasses. I was in like a super rush. I went for a run before the show, cutting it very close, and I could not find my eyeglasses, and it was light out. So I just drove with my prescription sunglasses to the show. Then I didn't have my glasses at the show, and I was just very agitated. It was not of the 6 nights, 5 of them super smooth, super fun. This night I was off. I was kind of a disaster. I couldn't find the remote control before the show for the timer, and we started like 3 minutes late because of that. And I found it like 15 minutes into the show. Finally, there was a problem with the pre-show music that was on my end, but everything on their end went great. Usually that theater, there's something that isn't going well, the sound or the lights or the video screen, but they really got that dialed in. So we'll see how that show goes. We like half filled the theater, maybe 45 people out of 80. We blocked off the top 2 rows. It was pretty fun. The lighting was difficult. It was hard to see the audience, which impacted Ray's set because he likes to do crowd work. And yeah, so that was a Castle Rock show. We'll see if we're back there. We didn't lose that venue. They would want us back, but it's kind of like, it's just not for me to do all this work. I need to make a certain amount of money, and it's not happening at that venue right now. And we probably need to commit to doing it more consistently or move to a different venue to fix that. And I don't know what's going to happen. At the moment, we have some dates penciled in with the venue, but we have nothing public online. And that brings us to night 6, which was last night, which was Sunday, which is in Frisco. The whole run, I was telling Ray that I was worried about the last night. The ticket sales were terrible. Brand new venue. Don't know what's going to happen. And out of nowhere, we broke 50 ticket sales. The show was super fun. The venue was great. They had their own stage, their own sound, so I didn't have to bring any of that stuff. There was an issue with music beforehand, which we figured out. There were some lighting issues, which I ordered a new tripod to fix that. The gist of the lighting issue was the light was too bright for the comics. The problem is that it was directly into their eyes. Now, normally, I'll position a light above the comic's head and slightly angled down. That helps a lot. It's the same brightness for the audience, but because it's not directly in your line of sight, it is easier to see what's going on. And the problem was my tripod that the light goes on, it's like $1,000 light rig and like a $40 tripod. It was not tall enough given the combination of the stage height, which we had a real like big professional stage instead of my portable IntelliStage, and the height of the comedians. Ray is 6'7". We had an opening act that was probably 6'6", 6'5". He might even be 6'7". He was a big dude. His name is Big Mike. So the lighting was a little problematic. And then we had some ceiling lights that we left on during the show because it was light outside. And then once it got dark outside, it was obvious that those were too bright. So we turned them off mid-show, which was kind of fun. It was kind of like a concert. We turned them off right before the headliner came on. If you go to a concert, a lot of times they change like the lights and sound between the opening acts and the headliner. So that we'll fix it for the whole show next time. Also, it was warm again. So we opened some doors in the middle of the show, but we probably should have opened them earlier. So those were all lessons we learned. Seating was a little chaotic. I trained a comic on the fly to seat people because I was dealing with a music issue before the show, which we'll have dialed in next time. Basically, there's a soundboard. Soundboard has, I think they're 1/4-inch inputs. They're like the big headphone jacks. And I only had an MP3 player with a teeny tiny, what do they call those? It's not 9mm because that's the gun. Something millimeter is the input jack. And so those didn't fit together. And so we only had the house music, which was too quiet and was playing ads. And so I realized pretty quickly, I was on my game last night, that I had a speaker in my car. So I just ran and grabbed the speaker and plugged it in, and it's great. Little Bose thing that fills huge rooms, and it was terrific. Did a really good job for that. So that show was a banger, and I send surveys out after every show, and we had probably a dozen survey responses today, which is very good. It shows an engaged community. Everybody was effusive in their praise for the show, and hopefully the venue will have us back again and again and again. Sounds like they don't want to do shows on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, which is kind of a bummer. But Sundays, I have several Sunday shows coming up where I could use them. And yeah, so there's been any questions from the audience before I hang this up? That was a pretty long time to talk to myself. And so that was, in summary, we did a 6-night run. We went Denver to Eagle to Vail to Aurora to Castle Rock to Frisco, all with Ray Harrington as the headliner. Kimball's Hume was the feature on every single show. We had Bhavya Shah, who was the blind comedian, on 2 shows. He was on the Castle Rock show as well. And we had John Davis, a very funny Denver comedian, on 1 show. We had Big Mike on 2 shows, the Vail and the Frisco show. And we had a guest spot from Eli Levy, who we actually have an Always Bookin Comedy episode with him. You can go check that out, Levy. He did a guest spot on 1 show, and we had Patrick Scott. Those 2 were both on the Castle Rock show. Okay, Mark from North Carolina weighing in, and we're going to get out of here, everybody. Short episode, solo episode. I'll fix the title. Tune in next week. We'll have another great episode of Always Bookin Comedy. It's every Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Mountain. That's usually 8:30 p.m. Eastern and 5:30 p.m. California. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.